Shaping Success with Wes Tankersley is brought to you by Aggressive Marketing Solutions, your solution for all business social media needs. If you need a team of social media marketers and content creators to help you build your brand on social media, text Wes 2020 to 541-709-6502 today. Get started building your brand on social media. Success is defined differently by every individual. Some have never even considered what it is. I hope when I get older I'll be successful. What does that even mean? Money? Cars? Big house? On this show, we strive to look at it a little deeper, learning from successful individuals on what they believe success really is and how to obtain it. Everybody, enjoy the show. This is Shaping Success with Wes Tankersley.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Shaping Success. I'm your host, Wes Tankersley. Today is episode 23. My guest is Mark Simo. Mark was introduced to me by our local Trust Me Vodka rep, which we'll talk about in a little bit, Sonny Bass. You may know Mark from many of the brands he's been a part of. These include No Fear, Bad Boy Club, Spy, and most recently, Trust Me Vodka. Mark, thank you for taking the time to be on the show.
Thanks for having me.
Hey, it's great to have you here. I was introduced to Trust Me a couple weeks ago, and we started investing in it. So can you tell us a little bit about yourself? We'll get into Trust Me a little bit later, but can you give us a little bio on yourself, kind of who you are, where you came from, and all that stuff?
Sure. I grew up in Chicago. Parents were school teachers, and I enjoyed risk-taking in extreme sports as a kid, and I took up racing motocross. And so I traveled around, raced motocross, and traveled across the country doing that. And I realized I didn't want to live my parents' life. I didn't want a predictable, safe life. I wanted to go out and do some fun things. So I decided to, start a brand called Life's a Beach in the mid-'80s, and moved to California and go surfing and ride motocross.
Yeah, that's awesome. You know, I was reading a story about Life's a Beach a little bit. There's this big giant story, and there's a big crew and a group of people that you worked with. So that's where it started. Where did it go from there? What was kind of the next step there? Was No Fear next, or where did you go after the Life's a Beach? Because that was a clothing brand as well, right?
Right. It sort of started as I'll look back on it, it's like chapters of a book, right? You're sort of writing the chapters in the story of your life, where you're, living your life, but you have a theme to each chapter, something that you're doing. The idea of the Life's a Beach brand was that I moved from Chicago out to Southern California to surf and live the outdoor life and race motocross and be at the hub of what all that was. From there, moved to Bad Boy Club, which was another theme. It was a kind of a skate-oriented story. The Life's a Beach brand didn't resonate with skateboarders, and skate was really popular back then. So that sort of went that direction. Next came No Fear, and that was sort of the pinnacle of the action sports category. It went from extreme sports to action sports. It became a much broader category in the market. Then from there, a few years later, launched the Spy sunglass brand. After that, we did a brand called SoCal, and then we did the Trust Me brand. So it's kind of sort of like a story of dropping a seed every couple of years with a new brand story or a chapter of the book is how it's turned out for my life.
So I talked a little bit before we got started here about No Fear. That was is that pretty much the biggest brand that you had? I remember growing up in the 90s. I was in middle school, so I'm a little bit younger than you, but that was something that we would collect those shirts, and I probably had at least 10 of those, and my brothers had a couple different ones too. Was that the big kind of big one out of all of them so far?
It was the biggest one so far. Each one had its kind of own destiny and its own purpose. That one was pretty explosive. It happened very quickly from September of 1990 to about that same time in 1994. We were doing, about up to 150 million from a standing start. So it was a fairly, fast growth. It was just really well timed. I mean, timing has a lot to do with these successes. I've always been fortunate to be well timed. People don't give enough credit to the timing, and that was just extraordinarily explosive.
So let's just kind of backtrack a little bit. Can you tell us kind of how you started with the Life's a Beach thing? Because I think it's a really interesting story about, from what I've read anyway, about how it came from this motocross thing, and then you guys ended up just selling shorts on the beach. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, it was fun. I would travel from Chicago in the wintertime to go race for 3 or 4 months down in Florida. And we're at the tail end of our racing season down there. At that point, I realized I really didn't want to go back to Chicago. I wanted to go and, go do something fun, go to California. And so met a girl in a bar, actually, and she was a seamstress, and we asked her to make us some shorts, and they happened to be like down to our knees, baggy, really colorful prints. And so she made us each a pair of shorts, and we thought that's where it would end. But as we were walking on the beach in Florida, people kept saying, hey, where can I get those? So the idea of coming up with a product line, we convinced her to make us 50 pairs and walked up and down the beach and sold them in a few minutes. We hadn't even gotten dressed, just a pair of shorts on, walking on the beach, and $20 and with 50 pairs of shorts, $20 each. We made a lot of money doing not a lot that day. So we said, let's do this. We went back, made 1,000 pairs, and then got kicked off the beach because the police didn't like us not having a selling permit. And then I learned how to go to wholesale. I was forced to cross the street to go sell to stores and started selling to stores. And that's how that story went. And the idea was we just wanted to live at the beach and, have a fun life and not have a real job and not have to get dressed every day. So that's kind of how that all started. It was an idea. Because we developed brands, intellectual property became the first thing we studied. We had to get a trademark, and someone gave me a phone number of an attorney, and I called him and applied for my first trademark, and that's when I got in the intellectual property business.
So there's kind of a story that I read. Is it true that you sold your motorcycles to kind of get that thing going full speed?
As weird as it sounds, yeah. I mean, we sold our motorcycles at the end of at the racing season in the winter. You had to buy motorcycles, sewing machines from this shop that was getting shut down by the IRS. And we didn't know how to use them, but we knew we needed to make a lot of shorts. So we traded off our motorcycles for sewing machines. True story.
That's pretty crazy. And so one more I want to ask, because I saw this picture of a guy wearing these shorts over his motorcycle pants. Is that kind of where it kind of blew up?
That was my first marketing lesson. Coming from racing, you're always trying to get, the sponsors or, somebody else's name on your jersey or something like that. And we were racing down in Gainesville, Florida. There was a national, motocross national, and there was an up and coming young rider named Ricky Johnson. And we were still at the early stages of getting our shorts business going. And we were at that race, and we taped these shorts on the side of the trailer and put a sign for $20, you can buy it. Ricky Johnson walked up and said, hey, can I buy these shorts? And we said, oh, can I get a pair of those shorts? He wanted them for free, actually. And we're, yeah, sure, $20. But wait a second. Do you know who I am? I go, we don't care who you are. It's $20. And so he goes, what if I wore them over my gear during the race? And we said, we will consider that. He goes, wait here. Runs back, gets the team manager, Kenny Clark, can I wear these shorts over my gear during the race? And Kenny Clark's like, there's no way. But Ricky Johnson goes, what if I win the first moto? Can I wear them in the second race? And so Kenny Clark said, if you win the first moto, you can do whatever you want. Well, that was my first marketing lesson. He went out, wore a pair of tiger striped shorts over his leathers, and went out and won. And it's in the magazines and got a lot of coverage. And then every kid in the pits had to come get a pair of shorts. So it was a sellout. It's great.
That's awesome. That is just so cool that just, you can't make that stuff up. That is just, that's great. So
it was a good marketing lesson. I'll tell you that.
Yeah. So where did this, you mentioned that your parents were teachers. About a year ago, I quit being a teacher and I started getting into this podcasting thing and kind of changing my mindset and pushing towards this thing. And that's kind of when Sunny was talking to me about you, that's kind of what wanted me to ask her if you'd be on the show. So how did this come about? Because obviously your parents are kind of they're one side of that coin, kind of like when I made this switch, it was more of, hey, I'm just making money to survive. And now it's more of, I'm making money to be happy and make these small goals. What made you kind of have that entrepreneurial mindset?
Part of it is I have the good fortune. I'm a twin. So I had a twin brother and we were always the same height, the same size. We competed in everything we did. We traveled around the world together and did all kinds of different sports together. And having someone that was encouraging you, pushing you hard every day, and we became ultra competitive. We knew at a young age that we didn't want to live that really safe, traditional, 9 to 5 kind of life. We didn't want to put on a suit. It was just much more fun to be out riding your dirt bikes and doing fun things. At that time, your parents are saying, well, that's not a real job. You can't make money doing that. You got to have a backup plan. And I didn't really realize at the time that advice is, you have to have a backup plan. Decided to, start businesses off the side just so we had something to fall back on if something didn't work out. We got hurt or couldn't make a living doing what we were doing, that we had some businesses. But we didn't want businesses that didn't represent the lifestyle we were living. So it became, each one was a chapter in a story about the life we wanted to live. And it really, really gave us the opportunity to do exactly that, to do what you suggest. Get up every day and do what you love, and you'll never work a day in your life.
And so it's pretty much been that kind of ride for a while now for you.
It's never stopped. I feel the same way every day. I feel fortunate that I get to get up and do something I love, tell a story about something that means a lot to me and increasingly to other people, and have them be part of it. So it really, it's much deeper for me than just a brand name or some clever way to get people to buy your product. It really was something that I believe that in my life, it was everything I wanted to do. It was every dream I had, and I was just living it and sharing it and inspiring other people to do the same.
So I love that, because when I was talking to Sunny, she was talking about how you're pretty humble and how you like to share the wealth with everyone. Can you talk about the importance? Because I feel like there's this core that you spend time with, and that core hasn't changed a whole lot over the years, has it? Can you talk about the importance of having a good core around you that believes in the same thing that you do?
Sure. I mean, the one thing that I think the brand names we picked were themes, right? And they had to be genuine and credible and authentic. They had to really, you couldn't just talk the talk, you had to walk the walk. I mean, if you're the Life's a Beach guy, you've got to be living at the beach. You've got to be, living that lifestyle and being part of that culture and that community and that way of thinking. When you're a bad boy, you got a little different responsibility. You might imagine that was really fun years where you did things that you were a little more rebellious, a little bit more socially riskier, but it was fun. It was sort of that whole movement in the skate era. No fear obviously set a really high bar. I realized that you can actually set a high standard. When you're the no fear guy, people expect you to do stuff that you normally don't do. Like, hey, let's go jump out of an airplane. You really can't say no. So, you get dared quite a bit to be the guy that you present yourself as. Luckily, I grew up my whole life putting a helmet on and taking risks was something that made me feel more alive than anything else I ever did. The closer I got to killing myself, the more alive I actually felt. So I think the idea of really being true to your story, your theme, your messaging, it's a gravity. That's what pulls people in, but it's got to be authentic.
So is there kind of a process you go with to create these brands and create the things that are going on? I mean, talking about like no fear, there's, no fear was just two words, but there were these slogans and there were all these things. How did you guys come up with all those slogans and everything? Did you have a team of writers? How did that work?
I get that. I get asked that a lot. I got asked to speak at colleges and different people about, how do you come up with these ideas and how are those words so magical? And it really isn't any of that. I didn't come up with a single one of them myself. Basically, I just saw something at one point. The Life's a Beach story was really simple. We got kicked off the beach. We were walking home with an armload of shorts over our arms there, and we figured we better put a name on this. We didn't have a name on it. And so, we wanted to get it done tomorrow morning. So we'll live at the beach, Life's a Beach. And we didn't even think about it. Luckily, we applied for a trademark, understood you don't just get to take any name you want, but we were fortunate to get it. Bad Boy Club was an artist. We met while we were down in Florida. We met a guy named Mark Simo. He was an artist, and one day he was drawing a little character at breakfast on a napkin, like a little piece of paper he had, and it was this little bad boy character. And I looked at that and I was like, God, that's pretty cool. And I thought, man, maybe we'll put that on a T-shirt, and we did, and took off with that. And so similar to No Fear, Mark Bugo, the same guy that did the bad boy character, one day was high as a kite. We had a little art room, and he was in, and I guess he smoked a little bit and took a red paintbrush and wrote the word No Fear on the wall. And I looked at that, I said, okay, maybe I'll try something there. And so none of these things came through like kind of a strategy. And I think people take for granted sometimes that all the ideas, all the information, all the resources, all the capital, everything you need is around you every day. You just got to open your eyes to it. And once you get on that path of the way you want to live your life and the way you want to promote what you do, it's sort of the decisions get easy, but not one of them came from me. It was just something I identified, ultimately trademarked, and became really the organizer, someone willing to go out there and pull all the pieces together and make it happen.
Crazy times, huh?
One of the it was really crazy.
So one thing we haven't talked about now, you race cars as well, right? What kind of cars do you race?
My brother and I both raced. I started in sports cars. I actually started in like showroom stock cars, SCCA racing. I was introduced to racing through a friend of mine, a guy named Beaver, Jeff Theodosakis, and to showroom stock. So I went down to the local Chevrolet dealer, bought a Camaro, put a roll cage in it, and went to the local track. And at first I was thinking, this isn't really for me. It's kind of like compared to motocross, it's one dimensional. Once I did it, I really started to like it. Moved on to the amateur finals, the amateur nationals, and I met a character named Boris Said. He was a 3-time reigning champion, and I was nervous. I'd raced only 5 races, and he's like, I'm like, Boris, man, you got to help me. And he said, okay, just follow me. So we went out in qualifying, and I followed him. We qualified first and second, and I said, this is fun. And we struck up a great relationship, and that, each year we moved on to a new category into the professional ranks. Ended up in the IMSA series, and that evolved because we followed wherever the money was. We ended up in stock car racing too. I ended up in NASCAR in the early years when the truck series started. We were able to get real sponsorship and real money to do those programs. But then Boris had signed a deal with BMW, and he got me a test up in Canada, and I went and did it, and I got the gig to drive for BMW. And won a championship for them in 1998, and stayed there for 2 years, and then moved on to the exotic prototype cars. I wanted to go race Le Mans style cars. While my brother stayed in the Trans Am series, a place Boris frequented. So did a stint in stock cars and sports cars, but primarily my background is road racing and exotic sports cars.
So are we missing anything? We've got surfing, we've got motocross, and we've got race cars. What else? Anything else? Is that pretty much it?
Right. I mean, if you put it in the context, I mean, it's all risk taking on some level. I mean, that's what that was the adrenaline rush. That's what kept me excited. Business has an equal kind of an ability to provide that same exhilaration. The bottom line is the most dangerous thing I've ever done, and I've done a lot of dangerous things to start a business. I mean, you got about 9.5 or 9.9 people that started a business fail in the first 5 years. So, you're far and away when you're starting anything new at the highest risk you ever have to fail. And sometimes it can be painful and for some people catastrophic. And I understand why a lot of people don't like to take that risk. But business is far and away one of the more dangerous things that you do when you talk about putting things on the line. It's not putting your life on the line per se, but it's putting I guess part of your life because you're committing the time and the effort to it. But you can get a similar rush from it. I always wondered why, how much is enough, right? When I met Roger Penske and we got real friendly over the years, and I kept thinking, how many more billion do you need to make to be happy, right? But I understand that there's almost a sport-like mindset that you have when you're in business that you can treat it the same way with the same desire and I guess passion to go out there and really try and make a go of it, to try and be something, and not just try to be there, not just try to make enough to live, but to go try and do something great. And that really drives you. I mean, I got to tell you that once you get that appetite, that you never really lose it. It's sad for people that never really try to find it because you just kind of get through your life. But I'd say that it's the same sort of feeling. You probably get the same gratification from winning a racing championship that you do from having an amazing growth year. So there's a lot of parallels for me, and I try and use that same level of enthusiasm. People say, why do you keep going? Well, I don't know if that I could get up every day and not have that feeling of wanting to do something great. It's just, I'm driven to do that. And I think that people don't tap into that. I think everybody has it. I just don't think everybody uses it.
Yeah, and I think a common misconception is that a lot of people think that people who are successful don't ever fail. And I think that the biggest thing is that they treat failure in a different way, whereas most people will treat failure as something to stop, whereas the successful people are the people who have failed and continue to push forward. Is that kind of what you're getting at there?
Well, don't they say the road to success is paved with failure, right? So there's no question you're going to fail at certain things. To go at it thinking that everything you do is going to be a success, every decision you're going to make is going to be right, everything is just going to flow. You have to be willing and willing to learn from the mistakes. You're going to make them. There's no question about it. I mean, you go crash a race car really hard, and the first thing you learn is, I don't want to do that again. If you don't turn it into a learning experience, then it's just a mistake, right? So I guess life is a game of mistakes. And if you use those mistakes to your benefit, learn how to be better because of it, learn how to make decisions. Man, I believe me, you don't do what I've done and not make mistakes, and some big. But it's not whether you get knocked down, it's that you get back up. And so, yeah, mistakes are literally the foundation, the building blocks of success. And I can't separate one from another. You have to be willing to fail. You have to be willing to learn from your failures, because it's going to happen to really succeed.
Yeah, that's the words of wisdom right there. I think that the best way I've ever heard it is to think of failure as a green light instead of a red light, which most people think it's a red light. So let's talk about Trust Me, because this is the newest endeavor right here, right? Trust Me. How long has Trust Me been around?
We launched in April of 2017. There was some formative years in the intellectual property business. As time has gone by, it gets more difficult to get trademarks. The trademark was owned by somebody else, and I had to go through a legal battle and a purchase to get it. That took me about a year. So we started a bit earlier in terms of the idea. It was presented to me by a gentleman named Mitchell Bailey. He said, I got this idea for this brand. I'm like, what is it? He goes, Trust Me. I'm like, okay, I trust you. What is it? He goes, no, that's the idea. Trust me. And I said, okay, tell me the story. And it was, the timing wise, was pretty interesting. But, the world's changed a lot, and the business cases are changed. And you have to evolve. There's no question about it. Whether you're racing or in business, it's going to change, and it's going to change faster every year now, almost exponentially. The rate of change is probably the thing that people don't take into account. It probably will have the most significant effect on success or failure than anything, because the rate of change is so quick. But Mitchell's story was really interesting, because I started looking at how the world was changing. Big businesses with large, overheads and facilities, and the way the media worked, from more traditional advertising, promotions, and celebrity endorsements to, social media in the digital realm, wholesale shifts in the business. And I felt like I was getting obsolete. And but he told me the story about, people don't have a tremendous amount of trust for the government or big business or the media these days. So what's left? I mean, it's your friends and family. So who do you trust? You trust your friends and family. So the idea then was to create a marketing strategy that would use sort of peer-to-peer and person-to-person communications to create the opportunity. So we started thinking about things like crowdsourcing and how you can generate a lot of opportunity and ability through that, including capital, so that you can create a brand. Now, this is a big battle. This is the biggest fight I've ever gotten into, because you're dealing with multi-billion-dollar companies that have been established for over 100 years. So you're talking about big players that are entrenched in the business, that really have more resources than you'll ever have to go compete. Yet I still wanted to go fight the fight. I looked at the categories in the business. I looked at a broad spectrum. I had this name, but I didn't know what I was going to put it on. And I went down to Southern Wine and Spirits down in Miami, and I met the COO, Brad Vassar, and Rudy Ruiz, the brand manager. And they're pretty candid that you don't just get to come in this business. It's established. And but as I looked around, I realized this is one of the few industries that hasn't been disrupted yet. and looking at the different business models, the Teslas, the Ubers, the Airbnbs, the Robin Hoods, all these little disruptive companies creating these massively huge valuations and never making money. I started thinking, okay, the business model's got to be different. So we decided that we could create a brand by using sort of a crowdsourcing strategy where you could have less capital deployed but have more people. So we set a goal of getting to 20,000 people and having the largest marketing department on earth of passionate, committed, involved people. And then we created a delivery mechanism that basically mimics Uber. We didn't have to reinvent that. And we're trying to use sort of, a lot of the digital tools that are available to go into the market and create a really, really flat, really flexible, really fast business model that can go out and outrun the competition, and hope that by interrupting the case sales for these big distributors, that you'll force an acquisition. And so the company's monetized nicely. So it wasn't alcohol that got me into the business. It was the idea that there was a category of business that you could make a product that would sit on the shelf for 100 years and never go bad. It's in an industry that's absolutely ripe to be disrupted. And, a story that gave a marketing platform that no matter how much money you had, you couldn't buy, by using these 20,000, passionate, committed people. I mean, I ended up here speaking with you today because of it. And this is how serendipitous this is. It's just, you're using the universe to build your brand instead of your back, or instead of all your capital. And I feel like we're finally in sync with, the forward-thinking, market makers today that are going to build architect businesses that can compete and start taking down some of these behemoths that are just really obsolete and just don't know it yet.
Yeah, and it's crazy because I love the way that it's set up because it is kind of a team thing. When I found out about it, it's an interesting story because right across the street from my house, there's a storage facility that the people who run that actually talked to my dad, and then my dad ended up buying some, and then my little brother bought some, and then we bought some shares, and we just continue to do it. And I looked at it as a really good investment because, when it's all said and done, we're going to have quite a bit of something left from it. So, can you talk a little bit about how you market it? Because you said that one of the big things is that it is word of mouth, and that's really how I heard about it. There's more to it though, because we've got these artist bottles and they're collectible, and there's lots of different things that make it so inviting to want to be part of it.
Well, I think I'd advise anybody that wants to get into a business to something that, any complex thing can be broken down. So we just sort of looked at the different bigger problems that we had, the delivery mechanism to have no trucks, no cars, no forklifts, no warehouse, but move a heavy liquid. And we created a system to do that. And it wasn't rocket science. It was just looking at other businesses that do it. A marketing strategy to go out and create not only the capital, but the voice out in the marketplace, and then be able to lever that into something. And it really has become bigger than expected because we eliminated instead of built. I think the mindset is it's sort of deconstruction, not construction of a business. People say, I'm going to go build a business. And I'm going to say, I'm just going to deconstruct it. I'm going to take it apart. I'm going to eliminate things. It's almost like Uber. We're going to have a massively big transportation company, perhaps the biggest in the world, but we're not going to have any cars, any drivers. I'm just going to run it on an app, and we're not going to have to deal with flat tires. And it's that kind of thinking is just different. And this is sort of similar to that you're using things that people would consider obsolete. They think, oh, everything's going to be built on social media. I actually was one of those people believing that for a moment, but I think you can enhance your business with social media, but you still have to be in the people business. If you're in a brand, you have to connect with people on a personal and intellectual level. You have to invite them into the story, whether you're letting them invest or whether you're trying to sell them a product, but you really got to connect with people. And maybe more now than ever in history. I feel really well timed. I mean, the world's not very trusting of so many things, and we're trying to own the idea that you could trust your friends and your family, and that's who's going to tell you about this. We eliminated resistance by making the price so low that anybody could get in, and by sharing the product, it created an effect. It's a very social product. And so we're just basically using, as weird as it sounds, the universe to help create the market opportunity, letting people just share something that they have fun with. They don't have a lot of risk, but they enjoy talking about it, and they're really genuinely part of it. Now, in order to be, this is I thought the no fear bar was high in terms of what you had to stand for. The trust me bar is way higher. Think of that. The name trust me as a brand. The first thing that it begs is to find a reason why you can't be trusted. So by elimination, by deconstruction, not talking to the audience as a company, but letting people talk about the project, talk about the product, talk about the principles of what this is, makes it real. If we try to turn this into a company discussion, then we would be degrading the opportunity because you couldn't really be trusted. You'd have an agenda. We decentralized the ownership. It couldn't be trusted if there was one person or one entity or one institution that had an effect on the end game. So we decentralized, like Bitcoin to an extent. There's a good example there where it's owned by everybody, not by somebody. So we made it a community-built project. So everybody in the community gets to share. We decided that if some people had to vote, some didn't. We made every share of stock a voting stock. It's all common. There's no preferred. And then I ran into a hedge fund investor. Didn't know who he was, and I told him the story, and it's a great story. It's probably too long to get into, but he invited me down to his home in La Jolla and said, let's whiteboard this thing, and helped us devise a financial strategy to really make this thing go. But he asked me for one thing. He asked me to commit. Let's only sell 1 million shares of stock. Because if this is true, then your story about everybody's involved and everybody's participating, then you have to walk that talk all the way through. Once we did that, it really changed how I felt. Now I know that there is no possibility that anybody could say that you can't be trusted because we don't talk as a company. We talk as individuals in a community of people that take care of each other. And I think the world needs a lot of that. And it's becoming, based on the environment, if you take this year, for example, probably more relevant than not. I've always been fortunate with the timing, but I really feel that, community of people that takes care of one another is really what it's supposed to be about. And that's what we've created here.
So it's kind of a community involvement. So can you talk a little bit about the bottles? Because the bottles are kind of an interesting thing. Now, there's been quite a few artist series out so far, and I know that I just got started, so I have 2, and then there's also the 4th of July bottles coming out. What goes on with the artwork and things like that?
Well, I would say this to anybody, and it's, I believe in this more now than I've probably said it, my whole career, but that everything you need to succeed is around you every day. We didn't know exactly how we were going to decorate the bottle. We didn't want to have a high quality bottle. We wanted to be in the ultra premium category. I'd met Sidney Frank's group, the creator of Grey Goose, and I was intrigued that he upscaled vodka from sort of a bottom shelf product to creating a top shelf, appeal. So the very first investor that got involved dealt in art, and we got to talking, and I was listening because we listened to people in our community, and he said, I got an idea. Why don't we put some artists on the bottle? So he introduced us to some of his artists. We put some artists on the bottle, and coincidentally, the minimums for glass were 20,000. The minimums for each blend of vodka was 10,000. So we created a gluten-free and an organic, and we decided to put 2 pieces of art from a single artist and tell a story about art. And then we decided to limit that, so we never make more than the 20,000 bottles. And that we didn't intend this, but it created a collectability to the story. And because we don't want to talk about ourselves, we want to be talked about. That's the marketing that we want. So creating art bottles, which was really just meant to decorate the bottle and use the artists as spokespeople that would lead us into music and entertainment as influences. Because it's not a sports drink. I came from sports. So, having alcohol, but musicians and artists and entertainers seem to have a different ability to speak about alcohol than athletes should, as we can't really appeal to people that are under 21. So art became just a part of it that we didn't really think much about. But as we ended each artist, people said, I got to have that. And they started to collect the bottles. It's our goal now to really use art as a way to create value for the brand, for the proposition that we have, by kind of getting to a point where the art is almost more important than anything else we do. And letting the artist tell the story in their own words and introducing their art. We're an art gallery in a sense. We just publish the artist's art. If we do a really good job of that, other artists will want to be on our bottle. We have to hold it in really high regard. Again, we have to set the highest possible standards and then meet them. to make sure that we represent the artist, and their story properly. But the beautiful thing is it's their voice, and we don't have to speak as a company. We're speaking through the voice of all these amazing artists.
Yeah, it's very neat. I love the artwork. I was talking to Sonny a little bit about it, and I have a bottle right here. That's what I was just looking at. So I've got one here, and then I've got the other one. So it's really neat that the art's in the back there. There's a couple that I'm going to have to try and collect and see if I can find the other ones, because I really like some of the art that's in there. So if someone wanted to invest in it, what's the best way to get invested into the brand?
Well, I would have told you, like I said, at the beginning of this proposition, everything was going to be more through social platforms. But what we discovered that was missing, because people are so inundated with their digital lives, with their Instagrams and their Snapchats and their Facebooks, that people stop talking to each other, like meaningfully, learning to have a conversation and talk to each other. And so we made a conscious decision that we were going to talk to people, answer every phone call, talk to every person one-on-one. If you came in at our minimum investment, there's no prejudice here, no division here, no status here. We'll talk to you. Because what we found was, if you talk to people, literally talk to them, they begin to trust you, they begin to know you, they begin to believe in this proposition, which creates an effect where they'll share that story. Had we printed a circular, a brochure, a private placement memorandum, anything, if we'd tried to do a digital sign up and do it this way, we wouldn't have created the effect. Amazingly, the appetite was that people just needed to talk. And we still live by that today. Now, how do you talk to 20,000 people? What we found was, again, everything's available, is in our network. You ran into Sonny, and Sonny talks. And Sonny has friends who she's interested, and they talk. And so the communication, because they're talking to their friends and family, is continuous. It doesn't really end, because they're connected to those people uniquely. And so it's a conversation. All we have to do is stimulate our group with something to talk about. Talk about a new artist, to talk about the next investment round, to talk about some specific new update in the business. We're launching a line of pre-mixed cocktails, and it just energizes this group of people who ultimately go out and talk to each other. And so we created a conversation, as simple as that sounds. I think that what most people make a mistake is it has to be complicated to be good. It has to be complicated to work. I'd say the deconstruction of this and just being willing to talk to anybody for whatever amount of time they need is what changes the game. Is you become real to them. You become believable. You become, part of the community that shares this story. And amazingly, it feeds itself.
Yeah, and I think that really stands true, because, as you were saying that, I was thinking about when I invested the first time. I got a phone call about 2 days later from someone in your office to talk to me about that. And then, we get a phone call from Sunny, and she brings over the case of vodka. And it's really neat that you do it that way, because you're correct. And I was going to ask you where we can find you on social media, but we can find you everywhere. But it sounds like that's not really the avenue for this. It's more of the fact that it is a word of mouth, and it's something that as a investor, you want to share with people. So, that is just a great plan. I think that it's really neat that you are using that, because as a salesman myself, that's kind of my day job. I was a teacher, but now I'm a salesman, and that's what I'm creating every day, is a relationship with that customer, so that they do trust me and they're willing to purchase from me, because that's what it is. That's what branding is.
Yeah, it is. It brings you. It grounds you back to really understanding you're in the people business. I think part of me in the beginning thought we were going to be a marketing business. I thought part of this was going to be an alcohol business. But really, when you reframe what you are, we're neither. We're in the communications business. And when you put yourself in a position where you understand what you are as a company, then you can effectively go out and make decisions. And if we consider ourselves an alcohol company, we might talk differently. If we consider ourselves just a brand trying to create a marketplace. But when you consider yourself a communications company serving a community of people, it's actually backwards. You basically, you turn around, you take care of these people, and in turn, the community grows. So you'd think you'd be looking outward to find the answers, when really everything you need is around you every day. It's a difficult thing to grasp until you actually start to see it mathematically, until the model starts to do what you never dreamed it would do, and it starts to go on its own. I mean, I came from a generation where working harder was the best strategy. look at your competitor, and if he comes in at 8 o'clock in the morning, you come in at 7. If you stay till 5, you stay till 6, and you just know you're going to outwork him. But that's not the world today. The world today is really being able to use the resources better than ever, better than your competition, and come up with ways that haven't even been conceived yet, or take ways that have been conceived and apply them to what you do, the Uber delivery mechanism, the crowdsourcing type of strategy. Fuse different ideas together, allow people to participate on a meaningful level. And more than ever, don't be greedy, because really it's much better to be a piece of $1 billion proposition than it is to be a big piece of $1 million proposition. So it's really giving to get that works. And again, I find it more relevant in the world today. And I don't think anybody 90 days ago could have told you how the world was going to turn and how this is going to go. And again, if I'm right, this is going to be amazingly popular, just like some of the other things I had. But I like to say I'm luckier than I am good, but I am hospitable to ideas and listening to people.
Well, that's a great way to look at it, because I think that when you're open to ideas like that, you're going to make other people successful as well. And that's kind of what it seems like that's the way that the company's going. So I really appreciate you taking the time to spend this time on my show with me. I do have one last question here, Mark. Let's go ahead and talk about this. The show is called Shaping Success. And one of the big things is that we try to define each guest's success one show at a time. So what the question is can you tell us what the shape of your success is? How would you define success in your world?
Yeah, I think that's one of the best questions you can ask anybody that wants to be successful is, what is your definition of success? Not what is society's definition of success, or, somebody else that you have to have your own. If you're going to, if it's about money, or is it about fame? Is it about popularity? You got to know what it is specifically in order to achieve it. For me, I feel that, I've accomplished a lot of the different measures through the different projects. In my younger years, I was probably more interested in making money, or becoming popular, having a brand status, and probably not as in tune with the world the way I am now. I feel really fortunate that this experience in particular has taught me a lot about people. I've always been fortunate to have people help me in my career just by talking to my friends. I learned to fly helicopters. Talking to my friends, I learned to drive race cars or start businesses. And I don't think I had the real appreciation for people like I do today. I think success would be defined by me today is really taking care of the people that take care of you, and realizing that everything you need is around you every day, and never take that for granted. Hold in the highest possible regard, not only how you feel about those people, but how they should feel about you. Bring them along, teach them. If you're not helping other people succeed or get better with your own success, then I think you're not going to ever really have the real satisfaction. And you're doing something right when people go along with you for the journey for a long time. And today, to me, success is, I want all the measures, but most importantly, I want people to feel that we did something good and they got to be part of it.
Yeah, and I love that you are basically building people up to make them as successful as well. Well, I want to take the time to say thank you for being on here. I appreciate you working through the power outage and all those things, and I hope that this helps the brand quite a bit. Thanks for taking the time out of your day. I really appreciate it.
My pleasure. And I said, if I did my job tonight, or if I do a good job in my business, hopefully have you back.
Oh yeah, for sure. Definitely welcome back. We want to have your team on here because it sounds like you have a pretty good one. So thank you very much, Ken. Yep. Hey, so this is the end of the show. I just wanted to say thank you for listening. If you can do me a favor, if you found value in the show, can you please take it and share it on your social media? Take a screenshot of something and just post a little something about it. Go to Apple Podcasts and give it a 5-star rating. And help that out. I also want to take a minute to thank my sponsors at Aggressive Marketing Solutions and my producer, TV VPN. Thank you very much. Hope you have a great time. And until next time, I challenge you to find the shape of your success.
This was Shaping Success with Wes Tankersley, brought to you by Aggressive Marketing Solutions. If you need a team of marketers to help you with social media, all you need to do to start is text Wes 2020 to 541-709-6502. 541 877-709-6502. That is Aggressive Marketing Solutions. Have a great day. See you next time.